Hi everybody, Adrienne here, and today I'm coming to you with some palettes that I picked up from Juvias place on November 23rd for a pre-Black Friday sale. And the first palette that I got it for $10, and it is a blush palette. And it is the Saharan Blush Volume 2 palette. I chose this palette, and the outer packaging looks just like the box. I'm going to go ahead and open it up so you guys can see the shades. I chose the Blush Volume 2 over the Blush Volume 1 because it looked like the shades would be a little deep for my skin tone. And plus, I am in love with coral, pinky, peachy looking tones, and mauve is like my second favorite blush color outside of burgundy. So only thing this palette doesn't have in it for me is a burgundy. Other than that, all these colors I absolutely love. And then this shade here, which looks like it could be a nice eyeshadow shade for transitioning or just setting eyeshadow base. It's a good pan size. Also, that's one thing I've noticed about Juvia's places, that they really do have really large pan sizes. And these two shades in the middle seem to be pink, and this one for sure is a pinky duochrome with a gold shift to it, and it can be used as a highlighter and make a really nice highlighter shade. Also, it can be worn as an eyeshadow, and this also looks like it'd be a really good blush topper. You could, I think, wear it straight up and it would look really pretty mixed with this one or this one, I think. Also could be used as an eyeshadow if I didn't just say that. And then you have a pinky corally tone here and then a straight up coral tone here. I really was excited about this palette because it has so many different things in it that look like it would really work for my skin tone. And I'm not usually really big on buying palettes, especially a 6-pan palette of blushes, because it's hard to find one where I feel like I would use everything in the palette. And I really don't care to buy face palettes that I can't use everything that's in them. Typically when you buy a face palette, they're trying to cater to everyone. So they have shades for the medium to dark and the lighter skin tones. Well, I don't like that. It makes me feel like I've just bought half a pan of product that from the get-go I know I'm going to have to throw away, and that's not going to work for me. And I don't like that feeling. I feel like I would rather pay less of a price for a palette and have colors that I can use and not have a bunch of other stuff that once I do finish using the colors that I bought the palette for, like I'm just throwing away products. So that made me really excited about that palette, and I could not wait to get it once I saw it. And keeping with the theme of palettes, I did pick up an eyeshadow palette, and the eyeshadow palette I got was the Warrior palette. And this is what the outer packaging looks like. Hopefully it's coming into focus. It's really shiny outer packaging. And this is what the actual palette looks like. The packaging looks exactly the same as the box. I'm going to go ahead and open it up. It is that cardboard packaging with the magnets, and I love that quality of packaging on a product. This is what the shades look like. I knew I wanted this palette, but I didn't rush and get it right away because it's a bunch of gold tones. And a lot of times I don't like a lot of the different gold tones on my skin, especially this color here. And this seems to be a really popular color, and it's in a lot of palettes. I'm going to start playing with it a little bit more with some of the base shades that I use and see if I can't get myself to like it. I don't know, just with the yellow undertones in my skin, sometimes I just don't care for the way that looks on my skin, so that kind of put me off. But the more I stared at the palette, I like this gold and that gold a lot, and I was in love with this diagonal row here of champagne colors. Those look really gorgeous, and the fact that the palette was cohesive and it had a brow bone color and a transitioning to base shade for me. And I also liked this contouring shade. It's kind of a brown black. A lot of times if they mix it with a brown, it's like a taupish color, and that looks really bad on my skin tone. It muddies and looks really bad. So I was excited to see that this one was kind of more of a brownish black, so I can't wait to see what it's going to work like, I meant to say. And also, another reason why I was a little hesitant about buying the palette is because the gold here, the packaging that it's in, what I feel like is a lot of cosmetic companies now, because so many of them are releasing palettes so fast and a lot of the colors are so similar. Now they're changing the color of the packaging, and it makes it harder to look at the palette and tell what the color actually looks like. So you're buying similar colors to things that you already have in your collection just because you can't really tell exactly what the color looks like with all the different coloring in the packaging. So that's something that I'm going to really be conscious about, especially moving forward into the year 2019, because I don't want to be repeating a lot of the same shades that I already have over and over just because the palette is colored and it's hard to tell what you're looking at. But this one, I kept coming back to, and I really wanted to sample it. And it wasn't just because of these champagne colors and the couple golds that I liked, but Juvia's Place, I keep wanting to call it Juvia's Palace. I have one other one of their palettes, and I've never even said anything to you guys about it or brought it up on my channel. It is the Masquerade palette, and the reason why is because the bottom half of that palette, yeah, for some people, you know, they might really like it. I feel like some of the oranges, it's just a little bit warmer than what I wanted, and I didn't feel like it really meshed well with the cool tones, the pops of colors that were up top. So I never used the palette. And looking at the other Juvia's palettes moving forward, they just didn't seem cohesive to me. I would look at them and see pops of color and think they were really pretty, but I never wanted to own them in my collection because I thought, what am I going to do with this once I get it home? It's not something that I can put a look together. I got to think about several different palettes to pull in, so I never did buy those palettes. And so this is why I purchased this third palette here, and it is the Warrior 2 palette. Once I saw the packaging and this palette, this is the outer box, of course, that's why it's so shiny, but the palette looks exactly like the outer box. But I'm going to go ahead and open it up and talk about the colors that are in here. It's an all matte palette, and this is why I picked it up. I love matte shades, and this palette is the most cohesive Juvia's Place palette that I've seen. And I feel like for me to get into Juvia's Place and really enjoy their products, I was going to need this palette to want to buy any more of their palettes, so that I had something cohesive enough to get all the base and transitioning shades that I needed, like these browns here, which if you guys haven't noticed, this same brown pretty much, and I don't know, the undertones might be a little bit different. When I swatch these palettes down the road, I will see. This is in all three of those palettes, but it's really necessary to create like a base shade look for me, I feel. Some people like a lot of color and they don't mind not having these transitioning shades. And this kind of coral shade here that has a little bit of pink in it, I was really excited about this. And then a straight up just coral shade and kind of a burgundy brown color here. This whole row, pretty much the whole palette. And this is kind of interesting to me too down here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to use it or not. This kind of, I think it's called Cana. It's kind of a khaki color. I'm not sure. It's kind of gray, but sometimes I can pull this particular tone off with my skin tone, so I'll have to see. And usually I'm not a big fan of this because it just washes out on my skin tone, but I can use it to set my brow bone. And these two dark shades here, I am curious, well, I'm not curious to see it, I already have it on, so you guys will see how this palette works when I create this look, because I'm going to show you what this palette was like to work with. But it really did seem like it pulled everything together for me, and the black and then this dark shade here. I knew that this would be something that I could supplement with my Masquerade palette, and if I chose to order any more Juvia's Place palettes, because that had been the only holdback, is that I couldn't put a cohesive look together. So I just am somebody, I'm quirky like that, and sometimes I don't like to use the hodgepodge palettes and stuff from different brands and all that when I'm trying to pull a look together. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but the way my brain thinks to put a look together, it's just not appealing to me. It feels like it's too much effort. It's already a lot of effort, you know, getting dressed and doing your makeup without having to think of how many palettes am I going to need to complete this look. At least that's how I feel. So I was so excited when I saw this and placed my order right away with them. And without further ado, I want to get into what this palette, and I also use this blush palette, these two palettes were like to work with. And then I'll be back and let you know what my first impressions of these palettes were. To get this eye look started, I did go ahead and prime my eyelids with MAC's 24-hour extended eye base. It looks like this. And I think for starters, I'm not sure. I think I want to try to go in with the blush palette, and I think I'm going to use this color here from the blush palette to lay down right along the transition. So I am going to pick up a fluffy brush, and I'm not sure how well this is going to go. I thought I would just try this. It may be too pink. A little pinker than what I wanted for a base. It's very pigmented so far. I don't want the eye look to be all monotone. I'm trying to use as many colors out of these palettes as I can, and this blush is blending really well as a shadow. Just looking down into my mirror while I'm blending. Looks like I've pretty well got that even on both sides. Maybe I need to come up a little bit more over here. I'm just going to take a dab more of that blush and go closer to the brow bone so I don't have a huge gap. Okay, now I am going to take another brush, and now for my transition shade, I'm going to go in with this color here. And that is a pretty warm color. Just come in towards the inner corner of the eye a little more. My goodness, I can't wait to get my primer on. My forehead's so greasy, I'm surprised I'm not reflecting right off the screen. I guess it's not greasy, but I did put on some heavy moisturizer. With it being wintertime and it's so cold and dry, I find myself loading myself up with moisturizer. If I ever used as much moisturizer as I'm using in the winter now in the summer, oh my gosh, there wouldn't be a spot on my face that didn't have a pimple. And this worked pretty well. I'm going to add a little bit more. This shade is actually starting to look a little pinker than what I thought it was going to. Maybe I wouldn't have used that blush color had I known it was going to do this. And I'm going to stop because I think it's going to oxidize a little bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and attempt to cut the crease using my matte paint pot and laying low. So this is only the second time I've done a cut crease, and I'm going to take it all the way across the primer because I want to do it all matte. Well, no, I'm not going to do a matte look. I think I'm going to use one of the shimmers in the blush palette. Let me look up so I can see where my crease is. I'm really excited to have this palette. It's not my first Juvias palette. I have the Masquerade palette, but I'd never really gotten into it and used it. So this is the first one that I've actually applied to my eyes. I've swatched my Masquerade palette, but I just have not had the guts to get in it. And oh my gosh, I hope this cut crease turns out okay. Like I said, it's only the second time I've done one, and I feel like I'm so far away from my mirror. So I'm excited to work with it and see what the formulation is like, and we're going to go into this eye with it. Well, I got a lot gobbed on. Let me go ahead and look up. Okay, that didn't help much. I don't really like using the liquid concealers because I end up making a bigger mess with that. So as I get better at my skills of cutting the crease, we'll see if I continue to use a cream. And I gotta be quiet for just a minute so I make sure I get this all where I want it. The last time I did it, I'd put a little bit of this Laying Low on over that 24-hour extended eyeshadow base, and then I went back over it again when it was time to cut the crease, and I think I like doing it that way much better if you're someone that does double prime and doing a cut crease, because this is not sticking as easy as I want it. So I think I'm going to pat this and stop trying to blend it because it seems to be wiping it right off. But I do want to make sure I get it even. Okay. I don't know how neat that cut crease is, but I'm just going to go ahead and start packing on lid shades, and hopefully it'll all work out. And I'm going to go back into the blush palette for my first lid shade. I do want to use this color here out of the blush palette and pack it on, see what it does. I'm going to keep it more towards the inner corner in case I don't care for it. And I don't know that I'm really seeing it all that much. Don't really think it's showing up too much. It is a lighter color. So I think I'm going to go in with this color and see what it does. Oh, that's a lot better. Oh, this is gorgeous. Gosh, this color is really pretty. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it to look the same way since I got so much of the other color on this eye first. Set this palette down. But like I have made a mess, I'm going to go back into that crease with that transition shade and try to make this look a little more presentable in the center corner. Looks like everything is kind of blending out. We'll see. And I'll show you guys, I'm using this shade again. I'm just going around where I attempted. I won't even call this a cut crease, I'll call it an attempt. And I'm going to go in with this shade next, so let me find a brush to do that with. Thought I just had it, but I don't see it. And now I'm going to go in with this shade, and this one definitely looks orange, but we could use a little orange to break up some of the pink and warm the crease up a little bit. These are blending out really well. These brushes that I'm using are kind of new to me also, so I'm not used to these brushes. I'm going to go back and transition a little bit more with this color above this orange shade so I don't lose that pinky look. And on the other side of this flat brush, I think I will take a little bit of this color here and bring it to the outer corner. And these look like they could be blush colors too. To tell you the truth, they're all kind of performing the same. I'm not really sure if the blush formulation is any different than the eyeshadow formulation, but they're going on really pigmented and easily. I am going to go back in and build up a little bit more of that pink blush shade here, this shimmery pink. Come in a little bit more with this color here. I do want to use this color here, so I'm going to go in and try to control it and keep it really tight in the crease and on the outer V. Just trying to use as many colors out of this palette as I can right now, these two palettes. Can't guarantee how this look is gonna turn out, but hey, that's the fun with makeup and trying new products. You just never know. Want to make sure I get that well blended. And I am having a little bit of kick up, but I don't care about that as long as the pigmentation goes down. This is a really pretty color. Just trying to make sure I get it blended well. Coming in a little bit towards this inner corner. Okay, I'm going to do the other side now. I think I'm going to try and pack it on a little bit first and then blend it out. I guess it's not going to do that with this particular brush that I have. So I will go ahead and blend it. Wow, let me sit this down. Looks like I got a little more pigment on my brush this time than I did the first time. Gosh, I feel like I am just being a total slob getting this on and blended. I don't feel like it's usually this messy for me when I put my shadows on. I don't necessarily think it's the palette. I think it may be because I chose to go in with blush shades first, and I'm gonna pick up this brush again and go back in and come towards the inner corner of the eye with this shade a little bit and calm some of that lid shade down that I have. I'm kind of liking how it's popping right here in the inner crease, but I don't want it all the way up here. So let me make sure both sides are even. And I am going to take a little bit more of this shade here and just gently go in and diffuse the edges of everything. And these are blending really nice. And I do want to set my brow bone, but I don't really go into my brow bone with colors this light typically, but since that's what's in the palette, that's what I'm going to use. And I'm just using a small angle brush to do that. It's not looking too chalky or ashy. I think I will take this brush here and just kind of soften it up so it's not super white looking. Okay, so I'm going to stop here and I'm going to go ahead and do my lashes and liner and finish the rest of my face, and I will be back. And to complete this look, I want to go in with one of the blush colors, and I'm going to use this color, and a little bit of this goes a long way. I'm going to start back here. Oh boy, I think I got entirely too much. Let me set the palette down. I don't know if you guys can see all this, but this blush is really soft and pigmented. Seems to be blending pretty well, even though I picked up too much product. Looking at it in the monitor over here, and it's turning out to be a really pretty color. It's pretty pink. I thought it was going to be more peachy, but it's turning out to be fairly pink, and I just picked up a little bit more, and I think I'm going to add some of this color up here because I don't want it this pink, and see if I can't get it to look a little different. Just adding a little bit of that color over here, and oh, I just got a big patch of it right here, so hopefully I can get that blended out. I'm going to grab some more pink. I have powdered my face, and I've gone out of my normal routine because this is turning into a mess. I typically put my blush on first and then I powder my face afterwards in case something like this happens to diffuse it. So what I am going to do is sit this down and I'm going to reach back and grab my powder brush and see if I can't get this to calm down. Okay, and this is the brush I use when I need to erase some mistakes. So hopefully this will blend and soften this up enough. And then I'll go back over it with some setting powder. Yeah, you don't need a big blob like what I put on. Now I'm going to reach back and grab my powder brush to see if I can't get some of this to even out with this side. And I don't want to move my foundation, so I'm just kind of blotting the powder on. And this is what I normally do anyway in my blush routine because it softens it up and makes it look like it's more fused with the skin. So that is that. Now I'm going to go ahead and fix my hair and spray some setting spray, and I'll be right back. Working with these palettes, you guys saw they're very pigmented and they blended really easily for me, and that's kind of what I expected from Juvia's Place from seeing prior reviews on the palettes, and just, you know, people seem to really love the product. So I am so excited that I got a chance to get palettes that work for me, that I think I will like the Warrior, the first Warrior palette also when I get into it, and I can't wait to create looks with it. But my first impression overall was really good, and I can't wait to create some different looks with that matte palette that I got, that Warrior 2 palette, because this one is pretty warm, but it looks like it has some very cool to neutral looks. And it was awesome that I was able to pull in the pink from the blush palette also. That was really exciting to me, but I purposely tried to stay out of these colors here because I feel like I always reach for those, and that is why I decided to use some of the eyeshadow shades for my eyelids, because I didn't want to get into these colors and I didn't really want an all monochromatic look. I wanted to pull in a little bit of that pink out of the palette, so I am pleased with the way the eye look turned out. And I think I like this as, I don't know, I probably will try this color as a highlight blush type topper just because of the gold shifts that are in there. I want to see what it's going to do on my skin, but yeah, I think it turned out really nice to use as an eyeshadow also. And so far, you know, I would definitely say if you were looking for some palettes, that these are pretty good quality out of the two that I've tried so far, and I could recommend them, but obviously I haven't used every color in the palette, so this is just a first impression and not a review. I can't wait to get into these palettes and do total reviews for you. You may see me use these palettes in some other videos, and I'm probably not going to come back and say anything until I make sure that I've used every shadow in the palettes, every shade, and know how they perform, because that's something I want to focus more on in 2019, is getting into palettes and using every single shade that's in there and telling you how they perform, because we have had so many makeup releases that I feel like you really need to know the tea on a palette fully to decide what you want to take into your collection. Some of you that are watching this video, you may be new to makeup and you may not have a large collection, but a lot of us that are watching YouTube videos have large makeup collections already and really love makeup. And if you're somebody that is a makeup addict, like I can be at times, which I would say I'm definitely a makeup addict, obviously, if you watched a lot of my hauls and seen the amount of eyeshadow palettes I have, it's absurd. But that's going to be slowing down in 2019 because I really am overwhelmed and I'm really concerned with what I'm taking in, and I don't want a bunch of repeat colors. And I feel like this really did bring some different dynamics to their brand, and I cannot wait to just get into palettes and give you thorough reviews over the next year or so. And I think it's going to be next year or so, because like I said, if you followed me, just even watching my hauls over the last year, not including the year or so before that, I have a ridiculous amount of palettes to go through, as I just said. But it's really exciting to have finally stuff that makes things cohesive for me. And I love sharing this stuff with you guys. And if you have any suggestions or want to see something done a certain way on my channel, please, I'm really open to comments and would like to hear your thoughts on things and produce content that you're interested in watching. And hopefully you like this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. You also want to hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button so YouTube notifies you every time I upload a new video. See you guys soon.